Greetings, one and all. Welcome to the 4th EIHL Weekly Roundup Podcast. Today is the 2nd of October 2017, and a lot of stuff has happened over the last week in the league. But hockey waits for no man, and so we shall start to talk about all the events over the last week of the Elite Ice Hockey League season. Let's start, of course, with comments of the week. This is, of course, where I look back at the comments that you guys left on last podcast, last week, and take a look at them, see if there are some good ones that made some good points, some good jokes, or just to have a bit of a discussion. The first up is by The Man, and it says, "Personally, I don't think the Caps will be in the league much longer. They are getting worse each year, and in 3 seasons they've had 3 coaches and haven't got anywhere. I completely agree that this is a situation that could materialise if the Capitals don't sort the problems out that they have. As you said, 3 coaches in 3 years means that there is no stability within the organisation and no order in the franchise, and it's become more of a free-for-all that has resulted in the Caps being a bottom-feeding team for the last few years. So thank you, The Man. I think you are right that the Caps are in trouble right now. But thank you for your comment, and thank you for watching." And lastly, for comments of the week, we have a comment by 420 Blaze It, a good Steelers fan, which says, "Not the best week for the Steelers this week." I also agree with that comment as well. The Steelers have been a pretty dominant team all season, to be fair, so they were bound to have a few slip-ups or off nights at some point, but I didn't expect it to last nearly an entire week. But hey, the Steelers know what they're doing, and their EIHL success is in their blood, so I think they'll be just fine. So don't worry about the Steelers, they will be okay. But thank you 420 Blazer for the comment, and thank you for watching. So we've looked at comments of the week. Let us move on to the scores that unfolded over the last week. We shall start with the 27th of September with a league game between the Cardiff Devils and the Dundee Stars. And the score was Cardiff 4, Dundee 0. 4 different players notch a goal for the Devils, and Ben Bounds records a shutout as the Devils have their way with the Stars. That's more like it, Cardiff. You had a pretty off week last time, but this week you had a pretty good go. That's the sort of play I expect from you, especially against an up and down team in the league at the moment like Dundee. A great effort by the team as a whole to put up a solid amount of goals, which is usually enough to get you a win with 4, whilst keeping the puck out of your own net and the defence helping Bounds patch his own stats with a shutout. On the flip side, the Stars are still struggling to find any form of consistency in either the win or loss column this season. I mean, it's good that they're not consistently losing, but it's not good that they're not consistently winning, you know? I get the feeling I will say this a lot about the Dundee Stars throughout the season, but Dundee seem like a team that could play 500 for the majority of the year, with either a winning or losing streak near the end of the year determining whether they end up as a team below or above 500. So, not the result the Stars wanted, but we shall see later how they fared over the rest of the week to find out if they could bounce back and finish on a high. But for this game, the Stars had a lot of trouble and got outplayed by a top team in the league like Cardiff. Not much you can do about that, but good job Devils, well done getting back into form and bouncing back quickly after a poor week previously. Then there was a league game between the Sheffield Steelers and the Milton Keynes Lightning, and the score was Sheffield 4, Milton Keynes 3. Matt Marquard's 3 points, I hope I said that right, and John Armstrong's pair of goals in the third period give the Steelers a comeback win against the Lightning team. I myself watched this game on Steelers TV on Wednesday night, and I must admit I wasn't too happy with the officiating on several occasions. I felt as if the refs missed some rather obvious calls and called some more discreet or inconclusive plays in favour of either side, but mainly in the Steelers' favour in my opinion. I don't want to call out the refs, they're going in the Steelers' favour, they've bought the refs or whatever. I don't think it's that, but I think Sheffield got away with a couple of things that game. Of course, what I'm saying is very subjective, and you're allowed to disagree with that comment, but there were several plays that I think the Steelers got away with in this game. Not to say that Milton Keynes didn't get away with anything, because they also did, but I think this was a clear example of the officiating of the game needing improvement. It was pretty good the majority of the game, however I think there needs to be more consistency with the calls that the referees made. That applies to the rest of the league also, and not just this one particular game. The overall officiating of the Elite Ice Hockey League needs to be improved without a doubt. As a referee, their whole job is to keep the game as fair as possible and to make sure that the game adheres to the EIHL rulebook. So make sure you do that and try not to influence the game unnecessarily. Anyway, Talk about the officials over. But regarding the rest of the game, the Lightning dominated most of the play, to be honest, and it sucks for the team and Lightning fans that they weren't rewarded for their hard work and control of the game with at least 1 point. But they made the win tough for Sheffield, and similarly to Guildford, the Milton Keynes Lightning are gaining that sort of reputation in the league to make it difficult for teams to beat them. However, I think Milton Keynes differ from Guildford regarding the reputation, as the Lightning seem like they are better at scoring and getting victories than the 1 point a game Flames. So bad luck to Milton Keynes, who really should have won the game, but well played by Sheffield to use their experience of playing in the league for years to know how to get the job done late and lock down the game after that. Then, on the 27th of September, there was a league game between the Nottingham Panthers and the Belfast Giants. And the score was Nottingham 5, Belfast 4. A pair of assists for Zach Phillips and Josh Scharler give the Panthers the victory against the tough Giants team. It was a great 9-goal game and all that, but Nottingham, you have to stop giving up those 2-goal leads and relaxing on the defensive side of the puck if you want to keep winning games, gentlemen. The Panthers went 3-1 and 4-2 up in this game and still managed to let Belfast tie the game before Farmer scored the game-winning goal in the final minute of the second period. That is by no means taking away from the way Belfast played, as they kept themselves competing all game, even though they have a few injuries on their defensive back end. The Giants, of course, would have liked to have fought back in the third period and either won in the third or pulled overtime, but they had been on a pretty decent roll over the last week and had to lose at some point, and it's better to lose to a team that is considered one of the best than against the Edinburgh Capitals or a team of that calibre. So this was a tough game for either team and a hard-fought 2 points that the Panthers gained over the Giants. Hard luck and well-played, Giants. Good job to hold on from the Panthers, but please fix those defensive problems before next week. Okay, thanks, bye. And then we had games on the 30th of September, the Saturday 30th of September. And there was a game between the Cardiff Devils and the Braehead Clan as an EIHL League game. And the score was Cardiff 5, Braehead 0. Ben Bounds' shutout and Richardson's 3-point night give the Devils a solid victory against a Clan side starting to show the cracks in their game once again. Well, Ben Bounds, what a solid week he has had. Without a doubt, he's got to be the player of the week. Like, if he does not get player of the week, there is something wrong with the voting system going on. He did not allow a single goal this last week for the Cardiff Devils. And he got 2 more wins for the Cardiff team that needed to bounce back. They needed to bounce back from the week prior, and Ben Bounds let them do that. I mean, the defence helped, obviously, by keeping the puck out the net, but Ben Bounds, no goals allowed in 2 games, 2 straight shutouts. That is a team of the week, player of the week play, if you ask me. So Ben Bounds, solid job keeping the team in it. And Cardiff themselves, Richardson's 3-point night, they get 5 goals. And that's enough to win a game, especially one like this when Ben Bounds is on fire at the moment. However, on the flip side, the Braehead Clan, they had a very good week last week, but they have decided to drop this week. They've struggled a little bit so far this week in terms of trying to find some sort of consistency to their game. They're very much like a Dundee. They're very up and down. They can have one week where they win both games. They can have the next week where they lose both games. So Braehead is still trying to figure out what's going on in their system. Of course, they were playing against a tough Cardiff Devils team, and the Cardiff Devils are just managing to roll on. They've bounced back from last week and managed to roll on with what they're doing. So good job, Cardiff. Hard luck, Braehead. Then there was a game between the Sheffield Steelers and the Coventry Blaze, and the score was Sheffield 5, Coventry 2. In this league game, Dowd and Valdick's 3-point nights keep the Steelers perfect this week, I should say, against a Coventry team also showing the cracks in their game once again. So this game, of course, is very similar to the Cardiff Braehead game. Sheffield, they were a team that struggled the week before. They came back this week just gone, and they managed to pick up two wins, 4 points on the league table. And Coventry, still a very up and down team. They're staying competitive, but they're not beating the top teams, which could be a problem for them going into the season later on as the weeks wind on. So Sheffield have done a great job again. 2 guys with 3 points is fantastic. They're keeping themselves competitive. They're getting some consistency, especially from guys like Robert Dowd. He's a very consistent player for the Steelers at the moment. But Coventry, they need to try and figure out what they're doing if they want to keep up in the upper echelon of the league standings. They're doing all right in the league standings at the moment, as we'll look at later, but they do need to kind of pick this up a little bit. Then there was a Challenge Cup game between the Nottingham Panthers and the Manchester Storm. And the score was Nottingham 3, Manchester 2. Ivan Mosey's 3-point night gives the Panthers their first Challenge Cup points in the 17-18 group stages against a Storm team who has been pretty strong all year so far. So Nottingham, they'd only played one Challenge Cup game previous to this, and that was the Levi Nelson last second of the game winner to take the 2 points against the Panthers. That's the only Challenge Cup game they've played so far. They went against the Manchester Storm, who, as I said, have been a very strong team this year, who are near the top of the league, if not at the top of the league, and they've got solid contribution from their star players. Nottingham managed to beat them with a solid performance by Ivan Mosey. So Nottingham, they've played 2 games in the Challenge Cup. They now have 2 points on the board, so they're keeping themselves competitive. Hopefully going to try and get that Challenge Cup next year for the Panthers fans. But on the flip side, Manchester, they just couldn't do enough. They couldn't do enough to keep themselves in it and get the win, which is a bit of a shame for Manchester fans. However, I don't think you need to worry too much because the Storm have been playing very well this season. So, Nottingham have bounced back this week with 2 wins. I think they got a win and a loss last week. They got 2 wins this past week just gone, and Manchester dropped this game. So, Nottingham, keep it up. Manchester, see if you can get back on track. Then there was a Challenge Cup game between the Milton Keynes Lightning and the Guildford Flames. And the score was Milton Keynes 3, Guildford 2. Doucette's pair of goals and Vero Paul's 3 assists give the Lightning the win in the first meeting of the 2 EIHL expansion teams this season. So exactly what I would think this game would go. Milton Keynes taking the win and Guildford getting close but not close enough. The 1 point Flames is what I like to call them at this point. Because the Milton Keynes Lightning, as I said earlier, they differentiate themselves from the Guildford Flames because they're actually better at putting the puck in the back of the net and getting wins, whereas Guildford aren't. So I was not surprised by this result at all. With Doucette and Vero Paul, they had some solid production that game from both of those players. Milton Keynes take 2 points in the Challenge Cup group stage, Group C, I believe. So, yeah, not too bad. And Guildford once again are left with a very close loss, which is a shame for them. It's another 1-goal loss that they've had to take, but this time they didn't get any points from it, which is the worst thing about it, to be honest. So, well done, Milton Keynes. Guildford, come on, you've got to actually start getting some wins here, lads. Then, lastly, on the 30th of September, there was a game between the Edinburgh Capitals and the Belfast Giants in the Challenge Cup. And the score was, get ready for this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a crazy one. Edinburgh 6, Belfast 4. Tverden's 3-point night and Nyquist, who we will talk about later, scores the game-winning goal as the Capitals win their first Challenge Cup game of the season and their first game in general of the 17-18 EIHL season. Finally, Edinburgh! Finally, you have won a game! The beast is off your back and you've finally done it. Oh, I'm so glad for Edinburgh fans. The fact that they've been waiting like 2 or 3 weeks since the season started to finally get themselves a win, and here they are. They've got 3 points on the season, 3 points in the Challenge Cup so far. They don't have any points in the season, actually, but we'll get onto that a little later. But Edinburgh, they've made a few changes, as we'll discuss in the news in a minute, and they managed to get the win. That's absolutely brilliant. Like, I love that. It sucks for Belfast. They went from losing to the Panthers to losing to the Capitals, which is not a very good. They've had the worst week, I think, of anybody so far, because they played 2 days, and I'm not sure, did they play on the 1st of October? Yes, they did, and we'll get onto that in a minute. Belfast have had the worst week possible they could have had this week, so hard luck Belfast, but Edinburgh, they were desperate. They needed to win a game at some point. They managed to do it against the Belfast Giants. So well done, Edinburgh, hard luck Belfast. So I'm just going to take a quick sip of my squash. Hydration is key. So, the 1st of October, the last day of games for this podcast. There was a game again between the Coventry Blaze and the Sheffield Steelers, a league game on the 1st of October, and the score was Coventry 5, Sheffield 1. Paquette and Patterson notch a pair of points as the Coventry Blaze get revenge on the Steelers to grab 2 points this weekend. So the Steelers, they got the Wednesday win, they got the Saturday win, but Coventry, they wanted a bit of revenge. They wanted to show the Steelers that they weren't just a team you could run over all the time, and they managed to notch 5 goals against Irvin Musnikov. So that's a pretty good effort from the Coventry Blaze. On the flip side, though, the Sheffield Steelers, they're having a bit of trouble at the moment. They're kind of struggling to find any sort of chemistry. There was an interview that came out at the end of this game last night that said Paul Thompson was a little bit worried about the chemistry of the Sheffield Steelers team, which is going to be a bit of a problem if you want to be a contender. You need to have players that are clicking and trying to get the puck to each other and know where each other are on the ice at one time. But the Coventry Blaze, they did a very good job this game. They lost the first game, but they came back and decided, you know what, we're going to show them what we're made of. We're the Coventry Blaze. We didn't have a very good season last year, and we're looking to do much better. So the Coventry Blaze, nice job. You get the win, and hard luck to Sheffield, but you got 4 points this week. I wouldn't cry too much. Then there was a game between the Manchester Storm and the Belfast Giants, which was a league game on the 1st of October. And the score was Manchester 2, Belfast 1. Swindlehurst and Rosehill's third period goals give the Storm a comeback win against the Giants, who lose both games this weekend. So the Belfast Giants, they lost every single game this week, is more of an important point. They had a total of 6 points they could have gained. They picked up 0. So they were a team that did really well last week, and then this week they don't do so well. This is something that's really happening in the Elite Ice Hockey League so far this season. It's so up in the air, or it's so ridiculous how the teams are doing so far this year, that a team like Belfast, who is like the fourth best team in my opinion in the league, they go 1 week winning all the games, then they go next week losing all of them. It's the same with Braehead, it's been the same with Dundee, it's been the same with Edinburgh. Well, they've just lost most of their games. It's been the same with a team like Coventry as well. Like, all of these teams are either winning every game in the week or losing every game in the week. There isn't really much in between. The only teams that have a bit of in between are Cardiff, Sheffield and Nottingham, which are the top teams in the league in my opinion. So this is crazy, but Manchester, they managed to bounce back from the loss against Nottingham. They managed to pick themselves up 2 more points in the league. But Belfast, they were so close, and they were leading in this game, yet they were so far as they dropped the game. So hard luck, Belfast. You need to bounce back for next week. Then there was a game between the Guildford Flames and the Braehead Clan, which was a league game. And the score was Guildford 8, Braehead 5. Rashinsky and Ferguson's 3-point nights give the Flames 2 points in the 13-goal game, whilst the Clan dropped both games this weekend. So, the Braehead Clan, they had a very good week last week, like I was saying about Belfast. Braehead had a very good week last week, but this week they kind of dropped the ball a little bit, just like several of the other teams in the league at the moment. On the flip side, Guildford, you finally won a game, lads! That's brilliant! Nice, well done, boys. So Guildford had struggled to get 2 points in any competition, Challenge Cup or League or anything. Like, they'd struggled to get more than 1 point or 0 in a game. But they managed to score 8 goals on the Braehead Clan. They allowed 5, so it's not the best effort from them. But, yeah, Guildford, you played a good game there. You finally got 2 points. You deserve 2 points. You are a tough team to play against for other EIHL teams. And I'm glad that Guildford managed to get some sort of recognition for the hard work that they've put in so far. But Braehead, on the other hand, usually 5 goals is enough to win a game, but not when you allow 8 on the other side. So Braehead, once again, they're very up and down so far to start this season. They need to figure out what they want to do with themselves this season. Do they want to be a top team? Do they want to be a bottom team? Do they want to try and get to the top but end up being in the middle? We'll find out. But Braehead, you're having a bit of an identity crisis here, gentlemen. Then, penultimately, on the 1st of October, we had a Challenge Cup game between the Fife Flyers and the Edinburgh Capitals. Edinburgh, of course, coming off their last win, or their only win, I should say. But the score was Fife 7, Edinburgh 3. Bloodoff's hat-trick gives the Flyers a Challenge Cup victory, whilst the Capitals go back to their old ways and lose yet another game. Now, Bloodoff may have scored 4 goals. I'm not entirely sure. It's either 3 or 4 goals that he scored. I've heard some reports saying that he scored 4 goals, some saying that he scored 3. I'm not entirely sure, but he got at least a hat-trick, so that's good for him. Well done, Bloodoff. That's pretty decent. And the Fife Flyers, they're doing all right so far this season. I'm pretty sure they haven't lost a league game. They've only played 1 league game. They're undefeated in the league so far, and they pick up another pair of Challenge Cup points. So that could have been a lot worse for them. They've done all right so far this weekend. But on the flip side, the Edinburgh Capitals went from winning their first game of the season to allowing 7 goals. Sure, it's a Challenge Cup game. Whether they care about it at this point or not is up to them. But yeah, they're still having problems, aren't they? Bless them, Edinburgh. Figure it out, guys. Come on, help a brother out. And then the last game this weekend was between the Dundee Stars and the Milton Keynes Lightning, which was a league game. And the score was Dundee 5, Milton Keynes 1. De Consilis's 2-goal night, I probably said that awfully, and Anderson's 2 assists give the Stars a win against the Lightning, who split their games this weekend. So the Lightning get a win and a loss so far over the weekend. Pretty sure Dundee do the same. Well, they lost to they lost to Cardiff on Wednesday, so they split both their games this weekend. So yeah, very much both of them very much middle of the road teams. 2 teams that you could really have tossed it up either way. But Dundee and the Dundee Stars managed to get the win, so well done to them, scoring 5 on Vikman, which was pretty good. Vikman's a pretty solid goalie, so getting 5 past him is pretty impressive, especially for the struggling Dundee side. But on the flip side, the Milton Keynes Lightning, they take 2 points this weekend. They didn't pick up any against Dundee, which is a bit of a shame for them. However, they're still a team that's in it. They're still a team that's relevant. They're still a team that's competitive. So we'll see how these 2 teams do over the weeks coming. Like, these 2 teams are very much big question marks on the year. Like, what are they going to do? What's going to happen with these 2 teams? But we will find out at some point. Now, the games are out of the way. We've discussed every single game that happened this last week. Let's take a look at the current Elite League standings, which you can see now. Manchester lead the league with 10 points. Sheffield are second with 9 points. Cardiff and Nottingham are tied third with 8 points. Belfast and Coventry are tied 4th with 6 points. Guildford are 5th with 5 points. Milton Keynes and Braehead are tied 6th with 4 points. Fife and Dundee are tied 7th with 2 points. And, of course, Edinburgh are last with 0 points. So that's the league standings as it stands on the 2nd of October. Now on to the Challenge Cup standings, which look like this. Sheffield lead Group A with 4 points, while the rest of the teams have 2 points. Fife and Dundee are tied first in Group B with 6 points. Belfast are second with 5 points, and Edinburgh have 2 points for last. Milton Keynes lead Group C with 6 points. Guildford and Cardiff are tied second with 2 points, and Coventry are last with 0 points. So that's the standings for the Challenge Cup as of the 2nd of October 2017. Now to the current league leaders in the various categories. So, to do with points, Carl Akered, Mike Hammond, Matt Becker and John Dunbar lead the league in points with 10. Sheffield's John Armstrong leads the league in goals with 8. Dane Byers and Ben O'Connor lead the league in assists with 8. Manchester's Lyndon Springer leads the league in penalty minutes with 58. And then the goalie stats, Manchester's Mike Clement leads the league in wins with 5. Ryan Nye and Kevin Nastiuk lead the league in losses with 4. Cardiff's Thomas Murdy leads the league in goals against, with 1. Cardiff's Ben Bounds leads the league in goals against average with 1.77. Sheffield's Irvins Musnikovs leads the league in saves with 244. Cardiff's Ben Bounds finally leads the league in save percentage with .930. So Ben Bounds, wow. They must have some solid goaltending coaching going on in Cardiff at the moment, because Ben Bounds and Thomas Murdy's only played 1 game though, so that's a bit unfair to give him the lead in goals against. But having said that, Ben Bounds, he's doing really well here. Sure, he struggled in the Champions Hockey League, but he has done very well so far in the domestic league. So well done, Ben Bounds. You're destroying the league so far. So that is the individual standings as of the 2nd of October. We shall now move on to talk about all the biggest news stories over the last week. There is a lot more news compared to last week, with a lot of players shifting places and things like that. A lot of it regarding player signings and player shifting and things like that. So buckle yourselves in. I'm going to take some squash and then we'll get ready. Ah, lovely. I really need that to help me keep going with this thing. So, here we go with the news. And of course we shall start with the Department of Player Safety. They have made some rulings over the last week. The thing with the DOPS is that they make their rulings early in the week, so most of the sentences or most of the suspensions that they give are usually almost always served by the time this episode comes out. So I have mentioned that in this thing, but just be wary that I think they come out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the DOPS rulings. But anyway, let's take a look at them. So, Sheffield Steelers player Andreas Valdic was assessed a 2+10 minute checking from behind penalty during the Steelers game against the Giants on the 23rd of September. However, the league decided that no further action was needed. Then, Guildford Flames player Mikaela Lindhammer was assessed a 2 plus 10 minute checking from behind penalty in the Flames game against the Storm on the 23rd of September. However, the league once again decided that no further action was needed. Then, Cardiff Devils player Paul Crowder was assessed a 2-minute penalty for high sticking in the Devils game against the Lightning on the 23rd of September. The DOPS reviewed the play and upgraded the penalty to a match penalty for slashing. This carries an automatic 1-game suspension, which the DOPS has added another 2 games to the suspension to make it a 3-game suspension total. Crowder has already served 2 of the games, with the final game of the suspension being on the 7th of October against the Belfast Giants. That's the next week coming up. Then, Belfast Giants player Cole Jarrett received a 2 plus 10 minute checking to the head penalty in the Giants game against the Steelers on the 24th of September. The DOPS upgraded the penalty to a 5 plus game penalty for checking to the head, whilst the 2-minute boarding penalty was upgraded to a match penalty for checking from behind. This carries an automatic 1-game suspension, and the DOPS added another game for a total of a 2-game suspension. However, Jarrett served the suspension on the 27th and 30th of September this last week. And finally, in the same game for the DOPS rulings, Giants player Spiro Goulikos was assessed a 2 plus 10 minute checking from behind penalty. However, the DOPS decided no further action was needed. So that's all the Department of Player Safety rulings for this week. A couple of guys getting some relatively big suspensions, 2 or 3 games, quite large. 1 game is like, okay, fair enough suspension. When you get into like the 3-game territory, you're like, whoa, you must have done something pretty bad. So there's only one suspension, I think, carrying over to the coming week, which is Paul Crowder's in the Cardiff Devils. Will he get to play in the Champions Hockey League then? That's very interesting, because that's coming up this week as well. So is it just going to be a suspension for a domestic game? Very interesting. We'll have to find out. So, we've done the DOPS, let's move on to the other news. And the Belfast Giants have signed Jeff Mason to a 1-year contract. The signing has partially been made due to several injuries on the Giants' back end, and the need to add some depth in order to keep the team rolling and getting some wins, which obviously didn't work this week. But the 36-year-old Mason returns for his 8th season with the Giants since signing with the team in 2010. Mason has played near to 400 Elite Ice Hockey League games and needs roughly 5 points to become the all-time highest scoring defenseman in Giants history. I think this is a very good signing for the Giants. He's someone who knows the Giants system and can slot easily into the lineup. Plus, he is a player who can put up points for the Giants on the back end, as he almost owns the defensive franchise record. So, a good signing by the Giants and a perfect fit as injury cover. He's a guy that once the other guys come back from injury, they don't have to expect him to play. He's 36, so he's at the tail end of his career. He may be a healthy scratch regularly, which might annoy him, might not annoy him. But Jeff Mason, he's back with the Belfast Giants, and hopefully he'll help the team bounce back next week and get a few wins. Next, the Dundee Stars have signed 23-year-old forward Brian Hart to their roster. Hart has primarily been brought in to help the team following the injury to Chris Lawrence that will keep Lawrence sidelined roughly until Christmas. Hart joins the Stars from the ECHL's Kalamazoo Wings, where he played half of last season, with the other half being spent with the Syracuse Crunch of the AHL. It sounds like a breakfast cereal, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen, the Syracuse Crunch? But first of all, it sucks that Lawrence got injured for such a long period of time, but when a player goes down, another player gets an opportunity to shine, and Hart seems to be that guy. Any time an EIHL team picks up a player that has played in the AHL last season, they have picked up a player that should perform well in the Elite League due to the lower quality of players. So Hart should play well for the Stars and hopefully keep the Stars competitive until Lawrence returns to the lineup. But of course, we don't know if that's an assurance, but only time will tell. Next, the Edinburgh Capitals have signed defenseman Julius Nyquist to a contract. The 24-year-old comes to Edinburgh after playing 2 seasons in the top-flight Finnish side Cuckoo and had an impressive junior career at EIHL from 2007 to 2012. First of all, what a great team name, Cuckoo. Like, you're playing against them and there's a call that's made against them. They're like, "What, this is Cuckoo?" And it's like, "Yeah, we're in Cuckoo." Ha ha! Anyway, so this is a very good pickup for the Capitals, I think, who need to do something to jumpstart their team. Picking up a player who has played in the top league in Finland means that the Caps have brought in a player who has a lot of upside to his game and can provide an immediate impact, which he did in his first game with the Capitals as he scored the game-winning goal in the Caps' first and currently only win of the season against the Belfast Giants. Talk about giving a good first impression, Nyquist. Let's hope Nyquist keeps helping the Caps get the wins rolling in so they're not the laughingstock of the league once again. Then, we have quite a nice story. This is quite a happy story. It's not relevant to player signings or player movings or anything like that. But there was once a fan. Let's tell a story, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Once upon a time, there was a fan called Josh Still. He was a Cardiff Devils fan. And he decided to go and tweet the Cardiff Devils after a New Jersey Devils fan had tweeted the Devils to ask, "How many retweets would I need for a season ticket?" He was given an amount of several thousand. He managed to get the retweets and got himself a season ticket. But Josh Still asked the Cardiff Devils the same thing, and he was asked to get 18,000 retweets, and he got 23,000 in total. So Josh Still landed a free season ticket with the Cardiff Devils after smashing the requested amount of retweets from the Cardiff Devils. That's brilliant. This is such a feel-good story. I love things like this. I love it when sports teams do things like this, as it shows how great the hockey community is. Sure, everyone would like a free season ticket. I'd love a free season ticket. Get me one, please. But for one person to be cheeky and try to seize the opportunity, to then have the extended hockey community help Still smash his target is great. It proves once again that the hockey community is the best one out there, who are willing to help one another and another fan out to get them a free season ticket. So enjoy the season ticket Still, and I'm sure he's saying a big thank you to everyone who retweeted and helped him get the tickets. That's like a positive story of the week, you know, like our happy-go-lucky story. The news is full of scary, frightening things. Let's have something nice about Josh Still's season ticket, you know. It's a nice thing. So congratulations, Josh Still. Then, penultimately, it's not penultimately, it's third alternately, the Dundee Stars have announced their captains for this season. Chris Lawrence has been named captain of the team, whilst Joey DeConsilis and Johan Anderson get the alternate captain role. I don't know a huge amount about each of these individual players, other than Lawrence will be injured roughly until Christmas, so this is kind of bad timing to name who has the C on their jersey, even though he won't be on the ice to debut it for a few months. But congratulations to all the players who have been given the honour. Hopefully they all live up to the responsibility they have been given and get the Dundee Stars on a roll on the winning column, not the losing column. That might cause for the stripping of a captaincy, which would be very bad. Now, penultimately, the Milton Keynes Lightning have extended their contract with goaltender Mika Vikman until the end of the season. The 32-year-old goaltender was added to the Lightning roster on a short-term deal to cover, I'm going to butcher this name, Prezelmaslaw Odronby. That was a butchering of his name, but he was brought in to cover that guy who got injured. But Vikman has played so well and impressed head coach Peter Russell so much that he decided to keep the netminder around after Milton Keynes' rather strong start to the season. I think this is a great decision by the Lightning, to be honest, as Vikman has proven himself to be a top goaltender in the league, having won the 2017 Continental Cup, the 2016 EIHL playoffs, and the 2016 Challenge Cup as part of the Nottingham Panthers franchise. A move like this will keep the Lightning a contending team throughout the season, as a good goaltender can be the difference maker between being a contending team or a bottom standing dweller. So good move, Milton Keynes, and congratulations to Mika Vikman on getting a full year contract. Hopefully he lives up to that and makes Milton Keynes fans very happy, which I think he will, because judging by the tweets when it was announced, there were a lot of happy Milton Keynes fans, that's for sure. And then finally for the news, Sheffield Steelers have reported that forward Juha Koivisto will leave the club and return to Finland. This is due to Koivisto accepting a position with a top-flight Finnish Elite League team. Koivisto had 3 points in 10 games with the Steelers, But primarily, it's great that Koivisto has got the chance to return to Finland and play, because that's where he's wanted to play all along, I'm pretty sure. But it's a real shame for the Steelers, who now need to find a replacement of the replacement, as Koivisto was signed as injury cover. Steelers head coach Paul Thompson has said he will have a replacement within the next few days, so we shall feature the new player on next week's podcast as part of the news. But congrats to Koivisto on earning himself a contract in Finland. You made a strong impression on Steelers fans in the little time you were around, and you made them very happy but very sad that you had to go. Next up, we have my Game of the Week. Once again, this is my award for the best game of the week in my opinion. Pretty self-explanatory. My Game of the Week this week goes to the 8-5 Guildford Braehead game. This game saw 13 goals scored, including a hat-trick, which, I mean, is pretty impressive if you ask me, or even 4 goals. So if you want to see a game full of offence and struggling defence and goaltending, then this is the game for you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we have talked through our Game of the Week, we've talked through the news, we have talked through last week's games. Now it's time for prediction time! Yes, we are here for me to predict the games that will be taking place over the next week. So, prediction time. The 7th of October, the Saturday, the first set of games next week. There is a game between the Coventry Blaze and the Guildford Flames. And I'm going to say that the Guildford Flames are going to take this victory. Coventry have been very up and down. Guildford have been very up and down. Guildford have managed to score 8 goals on Braehead last game. I want them to ride the momentum through and get themselves 2 straight wins. They haven't done that so far this year, I don't think. So if they could do that, that would be pretty impressive. So Guildford, I'm having you down because you're a tough team to play against, and I don't think Coventry are up for it. So Guildford, knock 'em dead, boys. Then there is a game between the Dundee Stars and the Edinburgh Capitals, and I think you'd be a fool to go against Dundee for this one. Edinburgh, sure, they've won 1 game so far this season, but they've only won 1 game so far this season. So Dundee, they've added some extra guys to their lineup. They've got their captain sorted out. There's a lot more stability within the Dundee Stars organisation at the moment. So the Dundee Stars, you are going to win this game against Edinburgh. So look forward to 2 points. Then there is a game between the Milton Keynes Lightning and the Manchester Storm. And I'm going to go with the Manchester Storm for this one. Whilst the Milton Keynes Lightning are a tough team to play against, the Manchester Storm are a very strong team. They are top of the league. They've got some guys that are going like a point every 2 games, or 2 points every game, or a point every game. So they've got some very solid production from their guys. They've got players that are living up to the expectations that have been placed on them this season to be a top team, and I think they're gonna have their way with Milton Keynes. Then there is a game between Braehead and Fife, and I'm going to go with Fife for this one. I think the Braehead clan are going to continue their struggles from this week that we've just had into next week, and I think they're going to really struggle to keep themselves competitive. And yeah, I think the Fife Flyers, they have only played 1 league game so far this year, so if they could get themselves another league win, then they'll be undefeated, which I would not be too surprised about. They can climb themselves up the standings. They've got a pretty solid group of players. They've got a group of players that have shown themselves that they can win, they can score high-scoring games, and they can really stick it to the other team. So, Fife, go get it done against Braehead. Then, the penultimate game on the 7th, I should say, of October is, oh, this is a great one, the Nottingham Panthers versus the Sheffield Steelers. And I'm going to go the Nottingham Panthers for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I really am. I think that the Nottingham Panthers could take this game. Sheffield are having a few problems recently. Nottingham are going to have come off a game against TPS Turku in the Champions Hockey League, which is tomorrow night, I should add. Watch it on Premier Sports. It's going to be a big one. But the Nottingham Panthers and the Sheffield Steelers, they're going up against each other. Sheffield are having some chemistry problems at the moment. They've got some injury problems. They're trying to find a new guy to come into the team. Whereas the Nottingham Panthers, they seem a team that's got quite a lot of good chemistry going. They just need to keep the consistency and sort out their defensive problems. But I'm going to go Nottingham for this one. I want to see them grab 2 points against the Steelers, especially as revenge for that Challenge Cup game they played. Then lastly, on the 7th of October, there is a game between the Cardiff Devils and the Belfast Giants. And I'm going to go the Cardiff Devils for this one. Unfortunately, Belfast, I think they're going to lose another game. That'll be, 4 games in 2 weeks they will have lost. So the Cardiff Devils, once again, they're coming off 2 straight shutouts. Like, you really can't count them out. Ben Bounds has been solid for them. If he keeps going and he stays on fire like he is at the moment, then the Cardiff Devils are going to be a super tough team to beat. Like that, they've been beaten early this season, which is fine, but once Ben Bounds gets hot, you have got a problem, Elite Ice Hockey League, because he is going to destroy you. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Cardiff Devils against the Belfast Giants. Then there is another set of games on the 8th of October to close out the next week of the Elite Ice Hockey League. First off, there is a game between the Sheffield Steelers and the Brayhead Clan, and I think Sheffield are going to win this game. I think the Steelers are going to want to get revenge from their loss against Nottingham. They're going to want to get themselves back on the winning path. They're going to want to get momentum, whereas Brayhead, once again, very up and down team. They're on the tail end of their game so far. They need to pick up some sort of consistency, but I don't think Sheffield is the team that they'll do it against. Then there is a game between the Coventry Blaze and the Belfast Giants. I'm going to go Belfast for this one. I think the Belfast Giants are finally going to win a game in these 2 weeks, and I think Coventry are going to drop both their games this next week. They managed to pick up one win this week, but I think the Belfast Giants, they are going to have a huge chip on their shoulder, especially losing against Cardiff the night before. So the Belfast Giants, they're going to take Coventry, I think, quite easily. Then there is a game between the Manchester Storm and the Milton Keynes Lightning. So it's a home and home between those two teams next weekend. And I think the Milton Keynes Lightning are going to take the victory. I think the home and home is going to be split between these two teams. I would not be surprised at all if that were the case. And I think Milton Keynes, they're the sort of team that you can beat them once, but don't expect to beat them twice, because they will come back. They will come guns blazing, punches flailing, and ready to destroy you, pretty much. So Milton Keynes, I'm having them splitting the home and home with the Manchester Storm next weekend. Then, penultimately, there is a game between the Edinburgh Capitals and the Dundee Stars. So they also have a home and home coming up this weekend. And you know what? I'm going to break the trend and go Edinburgh. I think Edinburgh are going to get a win this weekend. Like, they got one last weekend. I could expect them to get one win and one loss this next weekend. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So I'm hoping that Edinburgh will get another win. They just need to get some points on the board. It's gotten to the point where I actually feel really sorry for them. Like, most of the time, you're like, yes, they didn't get 2 points. I love it. That means my team can get 2 points or something like that, which is fine. But, like, I'm at the point, they've won one game in, like, 7 this season. I'm just like, you poor things. Just get a win, please. And then finally, there is a game on the 8th of October between the Fife Flyers and the Guildford Flames. I'm going to say the Fife Flyers are going to win this game, ladies and gentlemen. I think they could take both games this weekend. They could potentially stay undefeated in the Elite Ice Hockey League so far this season. Not the Challenge Cup, but in the actual league. And Guildford, they will have got the win against Coventry the night before, if my predictions are correct. And I think that the Fife Flyers are going to get the job done and get themselves 4 points on the league table. Now, before we finish up, we've got one more thing to do, and that is the one to watch. Of course, this is my pick for the game that will really be the one to watch over this next week, for it being amazing, for the matchup of the two teams, or for anything like that. And I think, of course, you guys know it's going to be Nottingham and Sheffield. Yes, that's going to be my one to watch this week, with an asterisk next to it. Also, Nottingham Panthers against TPS Turku for the Champions Hockey League tomorrow. That is my, ultimate one to watch. That's my outlier one to watch, my extra one to watch. Because let's just talk about the Nottingham versus Sheffield, then we'll talk about TPS Turku. So the Nottingham Panthers versus Sheffield, the matchup of the two teams is pretty intense. The 2 points on the line are pretty intense. I think it might be a Challenge Cup game, I'm not entirely sure. It might not be, it might be a league game. But the matchup and the two teams are two of the best teams in the league. There's going to be a lot riding on this. There's going to be bragging rights until the next time they meet the week after, which is the game that I'm going to. Then, yeah, I think this is going to be a really big game, and I really want Nottingham to win it. So, yes, Nottingham versus Sheffield is my one to watch for this week. But my super one to watch is Nottingham versus TPS Turku. The Champions Hockey League, the group stages are coming to an end very shortly. And if the Nottingham Panthers get a win against TPS Turku, they could potentially go through to the knockout rounds of the Champions Hockey League, which a British hockey team has never done in the history of the Champions Hockey League. So this would really help put British hockey on the map, ladies and gentlemen. So let's hope that the Nottingham Panthers can get 3 points against TPS Turku, and then we can see them in the knockout stages, maybe even the Champions Hockey League final. Probably not, but one can dream. And there you go. That was my EIHL Weekly Roundup podcast for the 2nd of October 2017. What did you think about the last week's events? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye!